I started out with them as a regional director of human resources. There was a second hotel downtown at the time, so I worked for both properties. And then when the position became available for general manager here at this property, it was a great opportunity for me to try something new, and that has definitely helped in keeping me engaged. Switching positions was essentially like switching jobs. It's been exciting and challenging and rewarding and stressful. My background has a lot of operations, from housekeeping and front office, a lot of the accounting and human resources, but it did not include some of the other key components such as food and beverage or engineering. It's best not to have a plan, because most likely the plan will not go as you want it to. It depends on what projects we have going on, what type of business is in the hotel. If it's heavy business on our second floor where all of the meetings take place, then I might be more focused there, versus if it's, maybe we're doing a sales blitz and there's more focus on sales, or, we have a project going on for renovations or, major mechanical or something like that, then we're focused on that. So it really depends on business and kind of what's happening in the hotel that day. Obviously, financial planning is a big part of it. So, budgeting, reforecasting, looking at the day-to-day business and controlling expenses and those types of things based on what's happening. The revenue management side of it. So working with a team to understand what rates should we be selling at? Are we posting the correct rates? Are we getting our best occupancy at the rates? Revenue management's very data-driven. So a lot of just reports and looking at systems and things like that to understand the revenue management. I oversee, of course, all of the departments. So we have a full-service restaurant. We've got 18,000 square feet of meeting space that we both sell and do the catering, the food and beverage for. We have our front office team, of course, for guest services, housekeeping, engineering. So just overseeing all of those departments, working with the department managers. My responsibilities obviously include hiring, training, retaining the department managers, working with human resources on other positions as well, but really overseeing the entire operation. From a business standpoint, we get a lot of data from the market, from different companies that pull information. So, we get these reports that say this is what we should expect in our market for whether it's revenue growth, ADR, which is our average daily rate, what we can charge for our guest rooms. This is what we should see for growth or, decline, if that's what the market's doing, in occupancy. So we take all of this information and we try to make our best guess as to what that budget should be for the next year. This is the revenue we think we'll get. This is the expenses that we think that we'll have. Of course, along with that, we do a separate kind of planning with our corporate office on capital expenditures and the types of projects that we think are going to come up over the next year. That could be just based on, need, looking around saying, we know that this needs to be replaced. We know that we need to refresh this or renovate this. It could come from Marriott International saying, you've gone this many years without doing something, so now you have to do it, whether it's renovating the rooms or a lobby space or something like that. So it could be that we have something that's at an end of life, or that fire chief comes in and does an inspection and look, we need to replace our fire pump. So we take information from all of these different places to compile that capital budget of projects for the next year. So the hotel is 35 years old, and several of the both mechanical components and the individual room units were original to the hotel. And there were components that weren't, but still, 20 years end of life. So we were having a lot of challenges with just major mechanicals in general. And we knew that we needed to do something, of course. So I contacted CMI because they had worked with our prior general manager on our cooling towers. We had to have them come in and just kind of do an overall review of all of our systems, and then, essentially they came back and met with the hotel owner and myself as well, and walked through all of the things that they would recommend, that we do. Kind of come up with a way to cycle through some of these projects so that it wasn't such a big hit at one time. We didn't plan for it in our capital expenditures. It was not something that we knew, oh, we're going to have to bite off this huge project. And so we had to come up with a different way to try to make it fit within our capital budget. It's overwhelming, of course, to see kind of the big picture, and this is all of the things that we need to do, and then you put cost to it, and it seems like such a large project, and especially if you're not planning for it, to say, how are we going to fit this into a budget, or what else are we going to push out of the budget in order to be able to make this possible. So knowing that there was a way to come in and phase through the project in a way that made sense and still accomplish what we needed to gave us a better level of comfort. They were pretty collaborative. This was all very new to me at the time because it was very soon after I had started, so mechanical systems was not something I was very aware of. So they were very good to make sure that we understood fully, what it is that we were doing and how it would impact us and how it would improve the systems and essentially our guest experience. They definitely helped along the way to collaborate with both our needs as well as what they were recommending that we do. I don't remember if the boiler went out. I don't think it did. I think it was just on its last legs, and we knew that if it did go out and the entire HVAC system for the hotel went down, we would be in a world of trouble, of course. That was the first big piece of it, if I remember correctly, was that we had both of those boilers replaced that sit up on our 13th floor, which required, by the way, cutting out a side of a wall and cranes and all sorts of stuff from a project management standpoint. I got to just kind of watch the project unfold. There was a building engineer that was more involved with kind of the full planning, and I just was outside saying, okay, you guys are cutting a hole in the side of our mechanical room, and there's a big crane, and they're moving things, and I went up there, and I remember walking across our roof, which is covered in gravel ballast, and in my heels, and one of the guys from CMI saying, can you back up? Which was pretty funny, but no, it was all a learning experience for me, and I've worked with Antonio the entire time that we've worked with CMI. So of course that's part of a great vendor relationship, right? Is being able to establish those relationships and keep them, and so it was a positive experience working through that project, and that was the largest project I had helped to facilitate. It wasn't too overwhelming because I felt like everybody was on top of things and communicated appropriately along the way, so I never felt like I was second guessing or not understanding what was happening. The relationship piece, working with both Rick and Antonio, they were the ones that met with us the very first time when they had to walk us through that whole project. So, it's been 6 years and we've had that same relationship, which is great. I've always felt that CMI is incredibly knowledgeable and just responsive, which is helpful, and stands behind the work that's being done. So if we have had any challenges or questions or something we didn't know, it's been easy to get answers and have somebody come out or talk us through something on the phone, and so it's just been a good experience. It's hard sometimes to even find somebody that maybe wants to take the time to take on maybe a new customer, a new project. But absolutely we run into companies that don't stand behind their work, or will say absolutely we can do X, Y, and Z, but then we don't hear from them again for 3 weeks, or we can't get a hold of them, or they're unresponsive. So I don't have dollar numbers necessarily, but we definitely, looking at a P&L, can see year-over-year savings in electricity, particularly since we replaced the boilers, and it increases each year, the cost savings, and I really think that is because we've replaced so many room units. So we've just continued. We've probably done 100 out of 200 room units over the last couple of years, and we continue to see that savings. So I think just better efficiency with new. So if we know that by replacing these room units, we're not only impacting, of course, our guest satisfaction, but we will see cost savings in our utilities as well, then that just helps make that decision. We're not quite fully modernized yet, but I would say we're well on our way. I mean, I certainly see benefit, and I haven't been able to work in a newer build hotel that has automated systems and those types of things, and I could certainly, just understanding the challenges that we've run into with our older mechanicals, I could see the benefit of having a modern system put in place where everything is automated and everything kind of talks to each other and tells you what's wrong. But obviously having the improvements that we do have has again helped with our guest experience. HVAC calls have declined, so when guests go in their room, their HVAC works, and that's good for the experience.
Yes.
So yes, it's important. The experience that I've had with CMI has been very positive in that I think that you guys have, skilled, knowledgeable people working for you. We've had several different brands of HVACs that we have in the hotel, and I just always feel like they're aware of and knowledgeable of anything that we have. So the responsiveness, the knowledge, the standing behind the product, and then again that relationship that we've been able to build and maintain has been a very positive experience.